Good afternoon. For my senior project, I worked with a local real estate firm in town called EndurVest. I met the guys at EndurVest before the project, and they knew I was interested in commercial real estate. The work I was doing was more interesting than the work I could have gotten on a typical internship. I was given a project to look in depth into the multifamily real estate markets of two cities, Nevada, Reno, and Sacramento, California. As potential investors and property owners in the area, EndurVest wanted to know what had happened in recent real estate cycles, the economies of the area, and other trends valuable to the conservative property owner. My first task was to gather together historical rents to see what a potential downturn could mean for their rental income. I found that the research done by the local brokers was just a package of numbers put together to sell property. It only went back about 5 years and didn't cover nearly enough. So I set out to find better data. Looking online, I realized that classified ads give good insight into the historical prices going back decades. And so here's some of the things I saw. So this is the company I work with, EndurVest Partners. So here's some of the ads. So it's kind of interesting because I was able to see history over the decades. At first, I was looking at ads from the early 1960s. As you can see from the top left, they actually had things that we would not expect today. Apartment, all utilities, close in, divorcee and child welfare. So you also saw married coupled only ads. But going further, you see ads like the one at the bottom left here, where they talk about inflation. Now, in the 1970s, inflation was running rampant, and the advertising for real estate at the time almost always emphasized inflation in their ads, as this is how you protect your money. And going forward to 2005, you can see on the right-hand side this ad for 100% loan to value, no job, no income, no document, for just anybody. They're advertising so people have to pay things back. Anyways, just looking over the data, I was able to realize that, like many things in history, when it comes to real estate investing, people make the same mistakes over and over again. They buy properties at far above their historical ranges, only to lose money when the properties come back down in value. And just as an example of this, in the 1970s, you had real estate in Reno rise 3 times in a couple of years. Same thing happened in 2000. Well, after each of those, properties fell 50%. So even a conservative commercial buyer that only borrowed 50% of their property would have been wiped out in both of those cases. The analysis took lots of time and lots of Excel spreadsheets. But as I went on, I was able to get faster and better at gathering the data from various sources, including the Census Bureau and the Federal Reserve. I called up and interviewed property managers in Reno to determine those who would meet EndurVest's needs best. Since EndurVest's office was busy, I worked at home and on my own time on the project. Initially, I spent too little time working, but after a few days, I learned to put in long hours on my own time. Doing this project was helpful for me as I learned and honed one of the many skills it takes to become a real estate investor, market analysis. I came to know the markets I was looking at and see the trends in action. I also learned what it takes to call up potential business partners, in this case, property managers, to find out who would work best for the business. It was a pleasure to do my senior project with EndurVest, and I gained valuable experience in property investing. Thank you.
Tyler, question. Rose.
What are some of the skills that you learned about, or that you found you had, or you found that you needed in order to do this analysis?
Yeah, well, just they asked for this information on rents, and there is nothing out there. So I had to really solve that on my own. I tried to think, like, where can I get these numbers? The government didn't have it, businesses didn't have it. So I had to just kind of think that one off on my own. And it also took just skills with Excel, put those all together. And then the median was the best way to measure the average of these rents, because really there's a high end and there's a low end, there's a massive difference. So the median actually was pretty consistent year to year. So it was a good, you had to kind of be able to figure that stuff out on your own. So that was one